She looked at him like I used to look at her. That's what did it. It wasn't the kiss. It wasn't even the lie that followed. It was the glance, fleeting, involuntary, that flickered across her face when he brushed against her arm as he reached for the wine bottle. She didn't know I saw it. That look, the kind people give when they think no one's watching, electric and terrified, and intimate in a way that makes your chest feel like it's caving in from the inside. We were at our friend Daniel's engagement dinner, the kind where everyone's overdressed and pretending they don't mind spending the night making small talk over overpriced hors d'oeuvres. I was refilling our drinks when it happened. I turned to bring her another glass of Chardonnay, and there she was, sitting across from me, lips parted in a soft smile she never gave me anymore. He was someone from her office, apparently. Colin, she'd said breezily during introductions, like his name didn't set off alarms in my gut. She never mentioned him before, but when I shook his hand, something about the grip, firm, a second too long, told me he knew more about her than I ever gave permission for. Still, I smiled. That's what you do, right? You play along. You don't cause a scene. You lie to yourself in public and save the crying for the bathroom mirror. We all pretend in relationships sometimes. But pretending has a weight to it, and that night, it got too heavy to carry. When we got home, I asked her, just gently, just a whisper of a question. Who is he? She didn't meet my eyes when she answered. Just took her earrings off and turned her back to me like the conversation wasn't worth her full attention. A coworker. Do you like him? She froze, just for a second, but long enough. No, don't be ridiculous. That was the first lie. I don't know how I made it through that night. Or the next one. But something inside me started dying. Quietly. Not in a scream, but in a slow, sinking silence. I began noticing little things. How often she smiled at her phone. How her goodnight kisses grew shorter. How her laughter never quite reached her eyes when she was with me anymore. And yet I waited. I waited because we were us. 8 years, 2 cross-country moves, 1 miscarriage, and 100 little dreams folded into shoeboxes in our closet. You don't just walk away from that. You don't throw it all out over a glance. Or at least, that's what I told myself. But then came the dinner. Her friend Melissa was in town and insisted on a group night out. We sat around a long table at the rooftop bar downtown. The kind of place where people pretend they're happier than they are because the lighting is flattering and the cocktails are $18. Colin showed up unexpectedly. She didn't tell me he'd be there. Oh, you invited him? I said, more surprised than angry. She blinked. Yeah, he's part of the team. I figured it'd be nice. I nodded, even though it wasn't nice. Not for me. Not after what I'd seen. I sat through that dinner like I was made of stone, watching the way she leaned in when he talked, the way her fingers toyed with her necklace, the same way they used to when she was nervous around me. I shouldn't have gone outside to take that call. I shouldn't have left them alone at the table. But I did. And when I came back, there they were, too close, her face tilted up, his hand brushing her cheek like it had a right to be there. A moment. A second. Just enough for lips to meet lips. She didn't see me. Not until I sat back down. Her eyes went wide. Not guilty, not sorry. Just afraid. I didn't say a word. The rest of the night was noise. Laughter. Clinking glasses. Conversations I wasn't part of. She didn't speak much either. Probably trying to decide how to spin it. We didn't talk on the ride home. She sat with her arms folded, her body pressed against the car door like I might reach for her. I didn't. I just stared out the window, wondering how love could feel like a cage you built yourself. When we got inside, I went straight to the bedroom and started packing a bag. What are you doing? She asked, finally breaking the silence. I'm leaving. Her voice cracked. Wait. Stop. Can we just talk? I zipped the bag. It was just a kiss, she said. There it was. The second lie. The one people use to erase gravity from their actions. Like a kiss doesn't break things. Like it isn't the beginning of the end. I looked at her then, really looked. And I saw someone I used to know. Someone I used to trust with the softest parts of me. And now? She was a stranger standing in our shared home wearing the sweater I bought her last Christmas. She stepped closer. It didn't mean anything. But her eyes said it did. They always do. I picked up my bag and walked past her. You're not even going to fight for this? I paused in the doorway, heart pounding in a rhythm I hadn't felt in years. I turned back, not with rage, but with something quieter, something final. You kissed him. It was just a kiss, she whispered again. And I nodded, calm as rain. So I'll kiss you goodbye. And I did. Just a soft press of lips to her cheek, not out of love, but as a burial. A funeral for the version of us that still existed in her denial. And with that, I walked out the door. I didn't go far that night. Just a few blocks down to a friend's guest room with walls too thin and a mattress too soft. I stared at the ceiling for hours, haunted not by the kiss itself, but by how small I had become in my own life. How someone I loved could look me in the eyes and call betrayal a misunderstanding. Like words could bend the shape of pain into something polite. I didn't tell anyone what happened. Not at first. There's a strange kind of shame that comes with being the one left behind, even if you're the one who walks away. It eats at your confidence, makes you question your memory, your worth, your sanity. Maybe I overreacted. Maybe I imagined it. Maybe a kiss really wasn't a big deal. But then, if it wasn't, why did she hide it? The days passed slowly. She didn't call, didn't text. I thought maybe she'd show up at my work or send some long message explaining everything away. But silence hung between us like smoke after a fire. Thick, choking, and impossible to ignore. It wasn't until a week later that I heard her voice again. Not through a call, not in person, but through a mutual friend. "She's been telling people you blew it out of proportion," Melissa said, hesitating. "That it was just a friendly moment, and you stormed out like some jealous teenager." I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because it was so expected it hurt. That's how this always goes, right? Minimize, deflect, blame, rebrand the wound as a bruise, and hope nobody looks close enough to tell the difference. Melissa continued. "She said you embarrassed her, that it was public and dramatic." I felt something flicker inside me then. Not rage, not grief, just this hollow, tired ache of knowing that someone I once trusted was rewriting the truth with my name smeared in the footnotes. And still, I said nothing. No posts, no rebuttals. I let her run the narrative, thinking maybe she needed to. Maybe it was her way of surviving the guilt. But it didn't stop there. The story morphed. Apparently, I'd always been distant, cold, unattentive, the kind of man who drove a woman into someone else's arms. That's when the texts started. From her friends. From mine. "Hey, just wanted to check in. I heard things ended badly. What happened between you and Claire? She said you freaked out over nothing? You okay, man?" Every message like a stone in my gut. I could have defended myself. I had the truth. But I knew how this game worked. People don't remember the truth. They remember the story told first, told loudest. And she was out there turning ours into a performance where I was cast as the villain. So I decided to do something she didn't expect. I invited her to speak her version of events, in front of the people she'd told them to. Daniel and his fiancée were throwing a follow-up brunch for close friends. A quieter event, more intimate. No more than 15 people. I knew she'd be there. I also knew everyone else had only heard her side. The version where I was insecure, unstable, overreacting. I RSVP'd. Told no one why. The morning of the brunch, I sat in my car outside the venue for nearly 40 minutes before going in. My hands trembled the way they used to before big presentations. Not from fear, but from the weight of what needed to be said. When I walked in, she was already there. Laughing, pouring mimosas, wearing the same smile she'd worn at the dinner where it all began. Her eyes widened when she saw me. She didn't expect me to show. I walked over, polite, composed. "Claire," I nodded. She hesitated, then smiled with practiced ease. "Didn't think you'd come," she said. "Why wouldn't I?" I replied. I heard this was a celebration of honesty among friends. A flicker of something passed across her face. Panic, maybe. Or fear that the version of the story she'd been selling was about to expire in front of witnesses. We sat at opposite ends of the table. For most of the meal, I said nothing. I watched her hold court, tell stories, laugh with that effortless charm that made everyone lean in. But underneath it, I saw the nerves in the way her fingers twisted her napkin, how her eyes flicked toward me every few minutes like she was waiting for the shoe to drop. And then it did. Someone, Daniel's fiancée, I think, asked innocently, "So, what really happened between you two?" It's kind of the elephant in the room. Claire let out a soft chuckle. "Honestly," she said, voice light, "it was just a misunderstanding. Things got heated, and he left." I let her finish. I watched the room nod along, some with pity, others with polite discomfort. And then I stood up, napkin folded in my hand like a flag being lowered. "Actually," I said, voice steady, "if we're clearing the air, I think I owe it to everyone to clarify something. Claire went still. There was no misunderstanding. I continued. Claire kissed someone else. At dinner. While we were still together. While she told everyone she loved me. The room went silent. I didn't yell. I didn't raise my voice. I just stood there, not accusing, but stating. Calm. Final. Claire's face drained of color. It wasn't just a kiss, I said. It was a betrayal. And what followed was a lie told to all of you. About me. For a moment, no one said a word. Even the hum of background music from the cafe speakers seemed to mute itself, like the entire room held its breath. Claire didn't speak. Her lips parted, but no sound came. Her eyes darted around the table, looking for some ally, someone who might laugh and say I was exaggerating, someone to smooth over the cracks with a joke. But no one did. They just stared. Not at her. At me. Because in that moment, they knew. The weight of the truth, simple, bare, undeniable, had landed in the center of the table, heavier than any meal being served. I didn't need to elaborate. I didn't need to show screenshots or recount the precise tilt of her chin or the hesitation in her voice the night she called it just a kiss. Some truths don't require proof. They just require presence. And mine, standing there with a quiet, calm face and heartbreak stitched into every syllable, was enough. Claire finally spoke. You're blowing this out of proportion, she whispered, too soft for bravado but too loud for shame. It didn't mean anything. There it was again, that same phrase. As if the measure of betrayal was based on how much the act meant instead of what it was. I looked at her, not angry, not bitter, just tired. That's the problem, Claire. It didn't mean anything. That's why I can't stay. She blinked, stunned. You're seriously doing this now? In front of everyone? I nodded. You did it first. I'm just finishing what you started. The host, Daniel, tried to shift in his seat, to say something to ease the tension, but the weight of the moment pinned everyone still. No one was ready to look away from the slow unraveling happening in real time. I pulled something from my coat pocket. A small envelope. I wrote you this, I said, placing it in front of her. Not because I need closure. I've already found mine. But because I needed to speak the truth at least once without having it rewritten behind my back. She didn't touch the envelope, just stared at it like it might explode. I turned to leave, but then paused and said one last thing, not to her, but to the room. She told you I overreacted, that I was dramatic, that I left without reason. Now you know why. You don't have to pick sides. I'm not asking for that, but I won't let my name live in a version of the story I didn't write. With that, I walked out. The sunlight outside hit my face with a warmth I hadn't felt in weeks. I kept walking, past the rows of cars, past the small bakery where we used to get cinnamon rolls, past the park where I once planned to propose until rain changed the moment and we laughed under an umbrella instead. Memories rose and faded like ghosts passing through me. Some hurt, some didn't. Later that night, my phone buzzed. Messages from people who'd been there. Words like proud of you, and you deserved better, and I had no idea. But I didn't reply to any of them, because none of it was about proving a point. It was about reclaiming my name. The next morning, I opened her letter. She hadn't responded with rage or denial. Just 6 words, written in the handwriting I used to trace with my fingers on lazy Sunday mornings. I thought you'd never leave me. And she was right. She counted on the version of me that stayed, that forgave, that bent backwards so far I snapped. But that man left the night she kissed someone else and called it nothing. And in his place stood someone new, someone who'd learned that love without honesty isn't love at all, that just a kiss is never just anything, and that sometimes the most powerful goodbye isn't loud. It's the one whispered through actions, the one said with a calm heart, the one given in front of everyone who believed the lie and chose to believe the truth anyway.